Hello, ADDians. Happy Friday, happy afternoon, happy Hanukkah. I'm on Glade Road. I'm on Glade Road. A place that's hot. Brings back bad memories. This meth.
In a quarter mile, turn right onto Highway 92 South, Lake Ackworth Drive.
Meth Haven for Atlanta is where I'm at right now. We're outside Ackworth. I just came one street over from the house that I lived in, where I went to jail from, that I discussed. And it flipped my life upside down. I was just by there briefly a minute ago. We're another place right here during my days before opiates. I'd go to work for different guys, and I went to work for this guy, and he lived in this really hot spot. He lived in a nice house, but the road he lived on the whole area is real bad.
Turn right onto Highway 92 South, Lake Ackworth Drive.
The whole area is very bad for, known for meth. And I come out, and I was doing work for this guy, and I took this girl that was working with him to her house and got some meth, and was leaving her house and just coming down Glade Road. And as soon as I come out of the road that she lived on, was real hot. As soon as I come off, there's like a roadblock right there. I get pulled over by, and I see the cops, a drug task force lady, and I eat the meth, right? And she pulls me over.
Continue on Highway 92 South for 2 miles.
It was probably soon after I was married, 27, 28, somewhere around there. 28, maybe 29. And she asked me if she can search the car. And so she's not even, you know, I'm not even getting to say no. She's got a dog with her, so I eat the meth. I'm tripping. And dog goes through my car, and she gives me this weird, crazy look and lets me go. But I just got pulled over coming off of the street, just out of nowhere, you know. I figured I'd share that with people. Just coming off the street, had a drug task force lady get right on me. It was kind of like a roadblock, and pulled me over and searched me just like that. Had a drug dog sniff through my floorboard and shit. Scary as hell. So these are old times, old stomping grounds, old stomping times. There's a couple of things I had. So I'm not sure which way my ADD mind wants to go with it. So let me just wing it. So I'm being brought back to, like I said, I just crossed, I was one street over from where I was. I was just working over in Town Lake. And I'm all the time going by places and reminders, this, that, and the third. I'd eventually wanted to get and do a video on Hantny, a.k.a. Scantny. We had nicknames for this guy for days. And he just happens to fit into the drug culture and all that. So, I met this guy, Anthony, okay? I was 21 years old. I just gotten out of boot camp. And he lived 2-3 houses down from my parents. Went to my parents after boot camp and met Anthony and started working for him as a painter. And he was quite a character. Anthony was big into prostitutes and cocaine, as I've discussed. Big into it. And he was married. So all the time we'd be on the road, going doing road trips, and it would always be cocaine involved. And every time we'd go out of town, which was all the time in those days, Anthony would get a prostitute. So I can't even keep up and tell you how many prostitutes Anthony got over the years. I can just about remember like almost every different kind of job we did. I can relate that time and frame to the massive amounts of cocaine Anthony would carry around. There's all different kinds of times and stories. One time he calls me up, and me and BG drive all through the night. I was doing speed when I lived in Kennesaw.
We found a faster route via Cedar Crest Road, which saves 4 minutes. If you prefer to stay on the current route, tap no thanks.
So, me and BG drive all through the night to meet Anthony at a hotel, 10 a.m. in Florida. Get to right inside Florida. So I've been up all night.
In a quarter mile, use the right 2 lanes to turn right onto US Highway 41 North.
So I bump into Anthony and we get to the hotel in the morning.
In a quarter mile, use the right 2 lanes to turn right onto US Highway 41 North.
Sorry. So we meet Anthony and he's got a ball of cocaine about this big, right? An entire Ziploc bag he could barely fold over. Huge thing of rock of coke. That fish scale, that old good killer coke. And he says, how would you like to do this? Let's fire it up. Smoke it up. So, in these days and these times, Anthony used to eat cocaine. This is the time that, around the same time,
use the right 2 lanes to turn right onto US Highway 41 North.
Prior to this, prior to being married, I've discussed in stories. I met this big cocaine dealer.
Continue on US Highway 41 North for 1.5 miles.
I met this Oriental guy, Tony, and in those days I learned how to cook cocaine. Just to make crack freebase. Was become good at it, whatever. Anthony never got to where he knew how to do it. So all the time I'd get with Anthony and I'd cook up 8 balls, I'd cook up rocks. So this was on many occasions. So I get to Anthony at 10 a.m. in the morning and we start cooking, smoking freebase and cocaine. We smoke it and we were just like one town across the Florida border, I believe. We were quite far. We drove all day to Miami. And I'm cooking rock in the back seat of his truck. BG's up front. Passenger, Anthony's driving. We're on the highway, freebase and cocaine. And I give Anthony a hit and he goes to the moon and back. And he goes, I guess, like blank. All of a sudden we're doing 70, 80 on the highway and we come as close to flipping without flipping as all possible. Backseat just, here I am with a crack pipe and an ounce of cocaine. I'm just freaking. It looked like we were about to flip over. We barely escaped that thing, that deal. Smoked coke all the way to Miami, did a job there. First night there I was on no sleep, so I said, after this, I'm going back to the room.
In a quarter mile, turn left onto Cedar Crest Road.
This was all the time with Anthony. Man, people are dicks. All the time he would go on the road and get these enormous rock things of cocaine. Remember one time we were working in Charlotte, wherever Charlotte is, Charlotte, North Carolina, whatever. We were working in that town, and we're doing stores all night, and he whips out a big old bag of cocaine and hands it to me, and whatever I can get on a key bump is as much as I can do, right? So I'm in his bag and I'm just going at it, Probably snorted 2-3 grams in a matter of a few minutes. Really, I was just going stupid, as much as would fit on a key. I'm talking, pile. I was doing bumps like that. And, I was being greedy, and, it was so much, and I knew how to work all night and all that. So, I was taking it to the extreme, how drug addicts always do, just to the extreme, wearing it out. We used to do these kind of runs and things all the time. He'd go out of town, he'd get an ounce of cocaine, we'd go and he'd stay in a hotel and he'd drink and he'd go to local bars and he would hire
Turn left onto Cedar Crest Road.
He was always hiring prostitutes. So as I discussed, there was one job in particular. So in these days, my wife, we weren't as pressed. My wife's family was around. My wife, before I met her, had her grandpa who took good care of her. So even with me working, my wife had whatever she wanted in those days, right? Before her grandpa passed away. So they spoiled, he pampered her for things, for her lifestyle. As I discussed, she had a rough childhood, a horrible dad. Her grandpa compensated for that, overcompensated. So one of these times, I go on the road, I get all the way to Vicksburg, Mississippi, the last one of the top towns in Mississippi, 12 hours away, and we get there, and I think my brother-in-law was with us the first time. My brother-in-law TJ, my wife's brother, came with us. We go all the way up to we paint the first Home Depot, like one of the very first Home Depots that was built in Vicksburg, Mississippi. And so, I'm going back over 20 years ago. So we get out to this job. We're on the job. We've been there all day, and we're just about to start spraying. 16 men are going to spray. It's me and my brother-in-law. We're in one of those lifts on the same job. Before this happened, it must have been that day. Maybe I'd been there a day or two. So I can remember another part very vividly. It could have been the same day. I was spraying the back of the building, right? And I was up in what they call a boom truck. And my brother-in-law is my man on the ground.
Continue for 4 miles.
And he's waving, hey! I'm way high up in a boom truck, how big the outside of a Home Depot is. I'm that high in the air on the outside of the building painting it. And my brother-in-law is continually waving me. And so, for him to do that has to be emergency. So I have to cut off my machine. I can't hear nothing. I'm way high up. So he's waving me. And he's done this a couple of times. So I'm not sweating him as much. Like, okay, whatever. I think he's just, telling me I'm about to run out of line, but I think I have enough line, so I think he's just, he's waving me, and I'm gonna brush him off. Then he's throwing a fit. He starts throwing things at me. Hey! That's okay. So I have to cut off my machine so I can hear him. So I cut off the machine. I was like, what? He said, dude, look. And I turn and I look, and this girl we're in the brand new Home Depot. It was like way on the other side of the building, there was a road. A Camaro or something had pulled over, and a girl got out, and she was naked, and she was dancing. Honest to God, there again on everything. My brother-in-law's in there, doing all he can to catch my attention. He finally catches my attention, and he goes like this, and I turn and I look, and there's a naked woman probably 150 yards away. Got out of her car naked. So those were good days and times, So on that job, we did that, and then we were about to spray at night, and it's 10 o'clock at night. Drum roll, please. Of course it's going to be decent. I'm up on a lift. I'm about to start spraying. Anthony comes in, and I can see he's got eat shit and die look on his face. And he comes over and gives me his eat hell and die look, right? It goes like this. And so I get down off my lift. I get down. He handed me a check for $250. So it had to have been the day. So that had all happened in a day. Here, your wife, you got a big ass mouth. Have a nice life. And so he pays me for the day $250, and I'm fired. Like I said, this place is like 10, 12 hours away. So what had happened is my wife had gone and traded her car in and got a brand new Mustang, red Mustang, right? 96, I don't remember what year it was, but it was probably year 99, maybe 2000, things like, very, very new. She had gone and gotten a new red Mustang and wanted to while out. So she called the wife's boss, Anthony's boss, Donna, and told her that her husband was always. So I told my wife, that he gets prostitutes. So my wife tells his wife, and so his wife, from that day forward, we worked together off and on. We worked together for 20 years, right? But that started a long line of many years of resentment. So from that day forward, so he fired me. So he didn't fire my brother-in-law. I believe TJ, my brother-in-law, stayed behind him and worked. And so I remember going back to my hotel and packing my stuff, packing all my shit, because, I had to be out of there immediately. So in a matter of no time at all, and I don't remember exactly how it went, but it was brutal, right? So I had to go to the, they have, You know, they have Greyhound and all that, and all-nighters and this kind of thing. I remember going to a Greyhound station at 12:15, 12:30 at night. There was one across the street from the job. I had to go back to the hotel and get my belongings and come back to right across from the job. And I don't remember exactly, but I want to say maybe I had to sleep there a few hours. I don't remember, so many years ago now, right? And this was, like I said, in 99, maybe 2000. Me and my wife had just been together, so it had to be 2000, maybe 2001. So I had to take the bus it, and I remember it was a god-awful trip, right? If you've never rode Greyhound, try not to, don't. You make a lot of pit stops. It's a nightmare, you know. You can't go far away from your bus or whatever. If you do, you could miss out and be stuck, be left. They tell you, you know, it was a god-awful trip. It took like 24 hours and some change to get home. A 10-hour drive turned into, you know, a solid day in this bus. It was hell. We were getting all the way to Atlanta, and then I got to Marietta, and then I got all the way, which is where I lived in Kennesaw, to right down the street from my house. I got the whole way home. My wife had to go like a block up the street to pick me up, right? Those were crazy, crazy times and days. Always had this crazy shit going on with Anthony. This was, you know, one of 100 plus times that excuse me, I take that back. I'm sorry. That's not true. That's a lie, okay? It was not that time. It had to be another time. He fired me then, but no, okay, all right, I'm confusing it. I was fired he fired me a couple times, right? That wasn't the time that I had to bus at home. I'm sorry. That was the time that my wife told him, and she came and picked me up in her new Mustang. Excuse me. Now I remember. Like I said, this is like 30, you know, this is 2022, 20 years ago, or 20 years ago. You know, I don't remember it all well, but now I remember. The whole deal was my wife wanted me to come show out her car, so she drove all the way to pick us up. I think it wasn't even that far. I think it was maybe 6-10 hours. That wasn't the time. Another time he fired me, and I think it might even have been on the same job.
In a quarter mile, turn right onto Seven Hills Boulevard.
The time he fired me, another time he fired me, I did have to take the bus, and like I said, it had to be on that same job. So I got fired from him twice on the same job. And then after I get fired, I remember going back to work.
Turn right onto Seven Hills Boulevard.
I remember going back to work for him after being off a month, and when I came back to a month later, you know, when I first got there, they were just starting to paint the Home Depot. When I
Continue
came back
on Seven Hills Boulevard for 3/4 of a mile.
I got fired again twice on the same job. When I came back is when I had to take the Greyhound. The first time I got fired, my wife came and picked me up. The second time I had a Greyhound in. So yeah, I've been through hell with that guy. Drove through the night, all kind of crazy times. He was working at night, like I said, doing coke all the time. The guy was a maniac. I mean, I've seen him do so much crazy shit. He's bi, so I discussed it we'd be out, and he'd pick up a guy like from the bar. I was on a job one time, and 2:30 in the morning, I'm just getting out of the shower, and here he shows up drunk with this guy that's an arms dealer. And this is when I first started finding out that he was fruity, that he was gay. And he had met that guy, and there was another guy. He had this guy
in a quarter mile, turn left onto Double Branches Lane.
He had this guy that he was friends with, that would meet him all the time. He'd go on vacations with this guy Johnny. I discussed this. Anthony would be at Johnny's house doing cocaine, and Anthony's wife would come over there and cause immortal hell. Donna would go over there and
turn left onto Double Branches Lane
and lay on the horn, sit in the driveway, honking like hell. Anthony would be, hiding out, doing drugs, and drinking, and want to hang out with his boy. And
continue on Double Branches Lane for half a mile.
Here's crazy ass wife's coming over here sweating. Good times. That's the start of it. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of stories. But I'm almost to get my check. It's Friday, and I'll get back to y'all. Stay HD. Ha 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 ha.